Hi guys, I'm very excited to show you the hair mold. So I'm going to start with the straight hair mold. Now this is something that I did give you a quick look at before, one of my new molds in Arrange. So we've got a few of these coming out and you will be able to buy these over on my website, which is zoesfancycakes.co.uk. And I want to show you a few different styles, just using the straight hair first, and then I'm going to be doing some other videos for the other hair molds as well. So this is the mold, guys, that we're going to be using. Now you'll notice this one is orange in colour. So this one that I'm using is my prototype. And I'm going to be making them on some busts that are already pre-made. And I made this with the original face mold that I had, the Abbey mold. So this one here I already made in an existing video, and I'll put a link to that in the corner. So I'm going to use about 37 grams of paste, and I want to dust the mold with corn flour, just to stop the paste sticking. You can use icing sugar, but I think corn flour is probably the best option. It's slightly finer. It doesn't cling to my mold quite as much. So I'm taking the paste. It's easier if you roll it out a little bit, just to begin with. And then we're going to push it into the mold and just roll it around. Oh, and I started saying, guys, and I forgot to finish telling you that the molds that will be coming out, they will actually be white in colour. My prototype is orange, just because that's what colour they made the prototypes. And the ones that you guys will be buying will all be like a white kind of colour. I couldn't decide what colour to go for, so we've done them white so that they match the existing molds that we already had. So I've pushed that in nice and firmly, right to the edges. You don't want it to stick out sort of above your mold too much. Keep it as flat as you can. Let's just put some corn flour in the other bits of the mold, the other little cavities. I've got about 3.5 grams of paste for this next bit of the mold, and we're just going to push it in. So I'm going to push it into this piece here, which is kind of like a fringe. Now, if you find there's too much paste, you can just trim it off with your knife as well. And you should be able to just fold it out. So if you turn your mold over, you might find they drop out automatically. If not, just give the mold a bit of a bend and a flex and your pieces should come out. Now, I am using modelling paste for this one, guys. I'm not using fondant, but modelling paste, because I find that comes out of the mold much easier. Fondant can be a little bit soft. You can try it if you want, but you might have to add some Tylose or CMC to it. You can put water on to stick this in place, or you can use edible glue. Either will work fine. You can either put the water on the back of the head, or you can put it onto the hair. Either way works. So you're going to press it on. You might find if you've put a little bit much on, it's a bit slippery like mine is. It wants to keep sliding down. So just be very mindful of that. I'm pressing it down nice and firmly onto the back of the head. It's coming slightly up to the top of the head, but I haven't brought it too far forward on this one at the moment. So let's push it a little bit further up. Otherwise, I think her hairline's going to be a little bit far back. What you will find is if you've used fondant, guys, in the mold instead of modelling paste, when you're doing this, like what I'm doing now, and you're pushing around, you're going to push out some of those hairlines. So I would suggest a modelling paste is going to be better. And then to press it on, I'm just using my Dresden tool to press a little bit firmer into the hair itself. And I'm kind of going over the existing lines that are already there, creating deeper ones. But I'm pressing quite firmly to push it onto the head. Now, it is important, guys, that your head and sort of body have been glued together for a while. Otherwise, the neck is going to collapse when you put any kind of pressure on. So it needs to be nice and firm, does that head and body, so that your hair is not going to compress anything. So we've had a bit of a play around with the fringe. I don't know that I want the fringe for this particular style. So let's try some of the other bits in the mold. 2 grams, so I've got 1.9 grams, and you're just going to push this in. Now this mold gives you fairly thick pieces of hair, so if you don't want them as thick, you can put less paste in and kind of push it down a little bit thinner. Just give it a really good press in. If you find the mold is sticking to your fingers when you're pushing it in, use a tool or something. This is a cat tongue tool that I've got here. Again, let's bend that out the mold. Get a little bit of water on the back of it, and then from the top of the head, we're going to press against the existing piece of hair. And let's bring it down there, like so. And we're just going to push it in a little bit tighter at the top again with the Dresden tool. Okay, so let's do another one the same. So the paste is sticking to my fingers a little bit, so that's why I'm using this tool. You can obviously put corn flour on your fingers as well. So let's put the other one at the other side of the head. Just putting water behind it anywhere that you want it to stick. And now let's see what this fringe piece looks like if we stick that on there. So this is the piece we put in the mold earlier. I think I like that on there. Push it up tight to those pieces of hair. So the curved bit, the arch bit goes to the top of the head. The straight bit is kind of down towards the face on this piece. You could try it the other way up if you wanted. I haven't tried that yet. So we're just going to press that in nice and tight at the top with the tool again. If you want to deepen any lines, you can do. You can also cut into the fringe or anywhere in the hair if you like to have a bit of a gap. Also feel free to trim the hair down as well if you think it's a little bit wide, because I'm using the largest head size here. So I'm using the Abbey mould for this one, which is my original face mould that has like the eye indentations in. So that's the largest of the heads I have. So it fits nicely on this one. You can also use the other size female or male head molds for this hair as well. I'll show you that at the very end of the video. But remember this one here that we did, so it's got different style fringe. It's all from this same mold. That one's in the other video. So guys, I've just done the same thing again. So I've got a few of these heads ready to use. You'll see that last one, we had the straight edge at the bottom, whereas the one I did in the video the other day, or the other week, has the curve at the bottom. So you can choose to have that large piece of hair either way up, depending on, whether you want a straight edge at the bottom or that curve. I think this one, we're going to go for the curve at the bottom. But also, you can cut through to bring your pieces of hair out a little bit more. So it doesn't have to be that big solid block if you don't want it to be. And then let's go for some more little pieces again in here. I would say the hair molds are easier to use than like the body molds. The pieces come out easier. Because the molds are thinner, they're easier to flex these pieces out. It's just really important that you do have corn flour in there. You can actually use vegetable shortening as well. If you want to grease your mold with vegetable shortening, you can do that. You might even find that your corn flour, when you pull your pieces out the mold, if you're doing darker hair, the corn flour can sometimes show on the darker hair. You just need to dust that off with a brush. You can even steam it off. I tend not to steam it off. I tend to just sort of brush it with a brush. But if you find vegetable shortening easier because it's not going to leave any kind of marks, then, give that a try. Okay, so we've got our smaller pieces now. Get plenty of water on the back of the head. Like I say, if you find it sliding about a bit, you could swap for glue, although I find glue still slides a bit. You could also even use piping gel. That will cling. It's a bit sort of thicker, stickier. That will cling much quicker. You just have to be careful you don't get it anywhere that you don't want it to be seen. So this time, remember, straight edge to the top. And we're going to press that on. Because it's the straight edge, can you see we get this little corner here that I'm just sort of nipping in, pinching in with my fingers. And we are going to have to kind of cut that a little bit. So just taking some small scissors. Make sure you only use these scissors for your cake stuff. You don't want to be using your nail scissors that you've used on your actual nails. Okay, and we're just going to press this in the top. Just pushing down that middle seam so it looks like a parting. And then going over with your Dresden tool. And you can flick out the hair. Have a bit of a play around with it. See where you like it to kind of sit best. You might want to curl it up. You might want to keep it just straight. You might want to flick it forwards or out. I apologize, guys, if you can hear my dog snoring in the background. Okay, so I'm going to take one of those, I guess it's the second largest piece, and put it in. It's a little bit long to just tuck inside, so I've cut a little bit off the top of it. And let's stick another one in here. So I haven't given these ones ears, so I want to make sure I've put hair in, sort of bulked out enough that they would be covering up where the ears would go. Otherwise, she's going to look weird that I just didn't give her ears. Obviously, you can give yours ears if you like. So again, we're just adding more pieces into that gap next to the side of her head, and we're kind of flicking them out or under. Let's add one to the side there as well. She's got a bit of a gap kind of at the side of her forehead, so we're going to add a longer piece there, and we'll pull it up and around, flicking it up a little bit. So you can just keep adding these straight, thinner pieces. You can really layer them up to get a lot more volume on the hair if you want. Just bear in mind, the more pieces you add, the heavier that head is going to become. So make sure your figure has set solid, or that, it's not so thin and flimsy that the weight of the hair is going to crush your figure. Just, be very mindful of that when you're making these. So you see, I've made quite a few of these thinner pieces, and I'm just going to keep pushing them in until I like the volume it's given me and the look. So even though we've used the straight hair mold, the hair doesn't look completely straight now because of the flicks at the ends that we're giving it. So as I'm coming further to the front as well, my pieces are tending to get a little bit smaller as I go along. And then I'm going to use one of the front kind of, I was going to say fringe piece, but is it called a bang? Are they called bangs? I don't know. I'm not very cool with it, sorry guys. But yeah, have a play around with the different shapes. So it's kind of like a chunky teardrop. It's not quite a teardrop, but that kind of shape. You'll see it in the mold. And they're going to give us like our side bits of fringes at the front there. Okay, so let's do our next one. So we're going to take that largest piece of hair, and I'm going to shorten it a little bit. So you can use the long hair mold to create shorter hair as well. And I've cut a curve at the back, and I'm going to add it the same way I still added the last one, pinching it at the top, and we're going to cut that little extra bit off, press it in those lines again. And then I've got two of the smaller pieces from the mold this time. So this one's going to be simple. This one's a much quicker one. We're going to keep it a bit kind of flatter looking in style, a bit less volume. Keeping her with a center part in. So we're just adding these two pieces, kind kind of coming from the middle. And I'm going to tuck them just down so that they lay tight with that bigger piece of hair at the back. And the idea is it kind of looks like it's tucked behind her ears, even though she doesn't really have ears. So that one's really quick and simple. Can you see she's got much shorter hair than the other ones have? And you can do that by trimming them down. Sorry, it's a bit blurry there, isn't it? Okay, so I've showed you 3 in this video, guys. Remember, one of them is in an existing video that I did a few weeks ago. Again, you should find links to that. And what I'll do is I'll put links below this video as well to where you can purchase this mold once I've got that ready. I used the Abbey face mold, which is the original one with the eye indentations, to create this. And the body, the chest part, I actually used a mold for. And this is one of my new molds that's coming soon that I used that chest for. Okay guys, so if you're wondering how does it fit on the small mold, because most of you guys have got the Gemma face and body mold, so I presume a lot of you guys will be wanting the hair for that. So let's have a look. So we've made the pieces just as we did before, and I've got a little bust here made with the head and chest part just from that Gemma mold. I didn't see any point in making the full figure just for playing around with hair. So let's see. So this will come much further around the face because the mold, it was better to make it slightly too big because you can trim it down if you need to, than me making it too small and you having to add a lot extra to it. It does go round, but we've got quite a bit extra. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that big piece of hair off and we're just going to trim it a little bit to make it a bit shorter. You can take a tiny bit off each side, not shorter, narrower even, guys. So take a little bit off each side and then we're going to place it around here. If it's too long, just pull it further up on her head and we can trim the extra off. So again, still using the same techniques that we did on the larger heads, it's just you might have to trim bits off. So let's use the second largest piece in the mold for this bit. I'm going to cut some little lines in it so it looks more like individual pieces of hair. And let's see what it looks like if we just put it on the edge there. And let's go for another piece. So a different shaped one. This is one of the longer, thinner ones. Or medium length, but thin pieces. Okay, and then again, this is another piece, a little bit shorter and fatter this time. So these are all just pieces straight from the mold. Let's put this on as a bit of a side fringe here. And let's do a piece that kind of matches that first piece we put on the side on the other one. I'm probably confusing you now with my explanation of this, but hopefully you can see from all the little pieces in the mold how this is all fitting together. Just bring it up so it starts from that hairline. And one more tiny piece in there. And obviously you can spend much longer than what I have done on this guy, is getting really nice neat seams where all the hair pieces come together. Okay, I changed my mind and we're just going to tuck that piece tighter in there, kind of underneath where her ear is. There we go. So yeah, don't worry if you put a piece on, you don't like it, you can take it back off and replay with it. Okay, so that is it on the smaller mold. In this video, I've showed you on the largest mold, female face mold that I have, and the smallest one. I haven't showed you on the medium size one, but it does fit in the same way. You can add extra pieces or you can trim bits off as needed. So you'll be able to use this hair mold on all 3 of the female face molds that I have available. You could use it on the male ones as well, because you know men have long hair too. But I'd love to see what you guys come up with for using this mold. And like I say, I'm releasing this video just slightly ahead of the molds being available, but you'll be able to purchase these on my website, which is Zoes Fancy Cakes, and you'll also be able to purchase them from our stand at Cake International. We'll be having a stand there, which is the first weekend in November 2022. So yeah, I hope you enjoy the video. I hope you find it useful, and hopefully you're all looking forward to the hair molds being released. And I will make some other videos for the other hair molds as well. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, be sure to hit the thumbs up button and leave me a comment below. You can see more of my tutorials by clicking on the images on screen now. If you haven't already, make sure you click the subscribe button to stay up to date with my future tutorials. There are also links in the description box below where you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and more.